Good morning, Sunny Hill. Thank you for joining me on this Friday morning as we've made it to the end of the week. And today we're going to complete our chat and discussions on the Sermon on the Mount and the Beatitudes. And so today we're looking at verses 11 and 12 in chapter 5 of Mathew. And they state, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." You may think, Teresa, that's a bit crazy. Jesus says, rejoice when we're persecuted for our faith. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't really feel like rejoicing if someone's screaming in my face. It's not something that we would naturally choose. But here, God is telling us we should rejoice. And persecution can be a good thing. Why? It can be a good thing because it takes our eyes off the earthly rewards that there are around us. It strips away our superficial belief. It strengthens the faith of those that endure, because our dependency has to be in God and not on our own strength. And lastly, our attitude through it serves as an example to others who follow. So if we've got somebody that's persecuting us, that's shouting in our face, that's unjustly telling us things that aren't true or aren't right, our attitude and how we deal with that speaks to others. I've had a few times when people have literally screamed in my face, and it's not been about me particularly or something that I've done wrong, but equally about where they're at as individuals at the moment. And they just need to vent that anger and that frustration, and I've been the one in the way. But would it make it right if I screamed back and whatever? No, it doesn't. So how we respond in those times talks about and speaks to as an example to other people. So we can be comforted as we look through scriptures, though, knowing that God's greatest prophets were persecuted. Jesus was persecuted. As we read through the Bible, people like Elijah, Jeremiah, Daniel, they were all persecuted. And that fact that we're being persecuted proves that we've been faithful. Faithless people would be unnoticed because Satan leaves them alone. We all know that we've got an enemy, and if we're working for God, if we're trying to move forward in our faith, then he doesn't like that. He does not like that. And so he will throw everything he can in your pathway. So if we're faithful and if we're striving for God, then very often we're going to get persecuted. But in the future, and there is a hope, in the future, this is the good news, guys, God will reward the faithful by receiving them into his eternal kingdom, where there is no more persecution. What does that mean? Well, one day it means that we're going to be stood before him, and he's going to say, if we've been faithful, well done, you good and faithful servants. And we'll get to spend eternity in heaven. And there'll be no more tears, no more shouting, no more persecution. And that's an amazing thought. And this is where we started off at the end of the week saying about storing up our treasures in heaven, not on this earth. So I just want to round up this week looking, as we've looked across the Beatitudes, and where it tells us, there's a whole list of things that tells us that we're blessed if we're poor in spirit. We're blessed if we mourn, if we're humble. We hunger and thirst for righteousness. We're merciful, we're pure in heart, and we're peacemakers, and we're persecuted and insulted. And some of those things you think, oh, gracious, you know? I don't feel very blessed when I'm being persecuted. I don't feel very blessed when I've got to be, when I'm mourning or I'm poor in spirit. But the flip side to that is that Jesus comes back then and says, because of those things, we inherit the kingdom of heaven. Yes, please, bring it on. We'll be comforted. We'll inherit the earth. We'll be filled with his spirit. We'll be shown mercy. We will see God. We'll be called children of God. What a title, what a privilege to be called a child of God. That we will be, ours is the kingdom of heaven. And then the best one of all, that our greatest reward will be in heaven, because we get to spend eternity with him. So why wouldn't we want to go through those other things? So I hope you've really enjoyed this unpacking of the Beatitudes. I thank you for joining me. Have a great weekend. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.